Chapter 35. When Warble arrives at the Moore house the next morning, he's in the mood for work. He had forgotten to set the alarm the night before, and so had overslept. Warble then had to shower at ultra-warp speed and had no time for breakfast. He stopped at a bagel shop on the way to the subway station, but the purchase had slowed him down just enough to make him late for the train. One left just as he arrived, and the next one was late. By the time Warble finally arrives at his old captain's house, he's almost 15 minutes late. Warble is feeling surly due to the way his morning has begun and embarrassed for being late. But he is indeed raring to go to work. That is to say, he's looking forward to firing somebody, anybody, and quick. The next few days go by rather routinely. Warble especially enjoys canning people. He gets 50 shares of stock for every working stiff he cans, and twice that amount, plus a $500 cash bonus if he fires someone who is within 2 years of retirement. Warble enjoys hiring, too. Well, he doesn't so much enjoy hiring as he enjoys the hiring process, most particularly interviewing the job seekers. Warble demands of all applicants that they sing, dance, tell about their most embarrassing moment, and explain what they would do if they heard a coworker utter a discouraging word about the company or one of their bosses. Warble can't decide which is more fun, watching the applicants who are desperate for a job squirm, especially when he can see they really would prefer to punch him in the nose, or watching the old fogey sweat and fret as he tells them how valuable their services were and all that, but then regretfully informs them with hangdog mien that times are hard everywhere, the company is having to tighten its belt. Even the directors had to limit themselves to 2 gold flakes in each glass of Dom Perignon at their last board meeting, and so they surely see the necessity of being willing now to take one for the club, to suck it up and take it like a man or a woman, and admit that they just don't cut the mustard anymore. As fun as it is to watch those less fortunate than him suffer, and to gloat over his superiority to them in every way, Warble gradually tires of the same old routine, day in and day out. One day, shortly after listening to an eager, desperate, job applicant stumble through a medley comprised of The Good Ship Lollipop, Wild Thing, Delta Dawn, and Tiptoe Through the Tulips, songs selected, of course, by Warble, watching him do his best at dancing the twist while singing the aforementioned songs, hearing about the time he ripped his pants while showing off for a girl as he climbed up the side of his house pretending to be Spider-Man, the most embarrassing part of which is that he was 32 years old at the time, and finally witnessing his lame attempt at a show of sincerity and claiming that he would immediately and without compunction report any fellow worker who in any way gave indication of a bad attitude, at the first sign of dereliction of duty, or on any evidence of lack of respect for his superiors. Warble fires the man. Actually, he hired him first and then dismissed him 3 minutes later. Feeling his oats and groovy to boot, Warble walks down the hall to the vending machine. He has dropped coins here many times before to procure from the metal purveyor of snacks his daily ration of Tootsie Rolls, Pop-Tarts, and Diet Light decaffeinated soda. This time, though, he notices something for the first time. There is a sign on the vending machine which reads, "Please see Rotunda Receptionist for refund." Warble deciphers the legalistic jargon. Aha! That is the politically correct way of saying, if you find that the food in this overgrown lunch bucket has not contributed to your health and welfare and made you happy as a clam, look up the fat receptionist in the lobby and she'll pony up big time. After all, rotunda is the Latin, and probably French, Italian, Spanish, Romansh, Portuguese, and Swahili word for fat. If they just came right out and said, "Please see the fat receptionist for refund," then Fat Albert, Minnesota Fats, Fats Domino, Fats Waller, and Fat Mike would surely sue them for all they're worth. Warble surveys the available items in the vending machine. He decides on a package of peanut M&Ms and drops in the 60 cents. He snatches the bag before it hits the bottom of the vending machine, yanks his hand out from the flap-like opening, and rips open the package. Scurrying back to his office, he closes the door, locking it behind him. Warble doesn't want to be disturbed by any co-workers, wannabe co-workers, or soon-to-be ex-co-workers just now. He upends the candy wrapper on his desk and inspects the colorful, oval-shaped candies that tumble out. If he were wearing a monocle, Warble would look strikingly similar to a jeweler examining a collection of rare rubies. But he's not, so he doesn't, really. Well, sort of. After moving his head back and forth across the items, freshly scattered across his desk, investigating each and every candy from a very close vantage point, Warble finally snags one specimen away from its brethren and leaps for joy. "Eureka!" he cries out. "I've found it!" Warble rushes out the door, flinging it open and dashing down the hallway. He almost runs over a messenger boy who is so alarmed at seeing the frantic exodus that he stands rooted to his spot in the middle of the hallway. "Don't just stand there, boy," Warble says, and grabs the slight youth by his shoulders and shoves him to one side of the aisle. "Stand there if you're just going to stand around." By the time the young man has regained his composure enough to look back around at Warble, the former merchant marine and polka punk band leader is getting in the elevator and is about to descend. "And don't stand around long," Warble adds. "You can be replaced, you know. There are 1,000,000 people 1,000,000 times sharper than you who are dying to have your job." Warble forgets the incident as soon as the elevator door closes. He didn't even recognize Woody Shoulda Coulda, whom he had hired just last week after Woody's rousing rendition of Delta Dawn in particular, and an energy-infused, albeit uncoordinated, demonstration of the twist. Woody, on the other hand, will remember the confrontation for months, oftentimes having nightmares about it. It always turns out differently in his dreams, though. Sometimes Woody has his wits about him and definitely leaps to the side of the aisle so as not to be in Mr. McGorkle's way as he comes hurtling headlong toward him. Other times he and his boss engage in fisticuffs or a wrestling match. When it is a fist fight of which he dreams, Woody wins and in the end hangs Mr. McGorkle out the window by his ankles until he pleads for his life. In which case, Woody doesn't let him up until he sings Wipeout backwards in slow motion and promises to be polite and say, "Good morning, Woody," at the beginning of each workday. If it is a wrestling match Woody dreams of, though, his boss always gets the upper hand and pins him to the carpet, which he then notices exudes a strong chemical/rodent hair odor. He feels as if he is choking and his neck is being twisted. And then he wakes up shaking and drenched with sweat. Meanwhile, down in the lobby, Warble is running around like a decapitated chicken, trying to locate the fat receptionist. Finally, he approaches the lone receptionist on duty, although she is a lithe, sleek, and beautiful creature, certainly not fat by any stretch of the imagination. "Say, miss," he begins, "you're not the regular receptionist, are you?" "Why, Mr. McGorkle, you must be pulling my leg," the blonde knockout replies in a soft, sweet, and sexy southern accent. "I've been the only receptionist since you've been working here, and, well, before then, too. Surely you noticed me before," she asks, batting her eyelashes coquettishly. Warble blushes. "Of course," he lies. "What I meant to ask was, are you the only receptionist that works here? I have reason to believe you have a counterpart who is, shall we say, a little fonder of the festive board than you appear to be." The receptionist's demeanor changes instantaneously. "You mean a fat chick?" she counter-questions. She is not as dense as her hair hue might lead a person to conclude. Her tone has taken on a hard edge, and her accent is sliding from Mississippi molasses to brash and Brooklyn-esque. She thinks Mr. McGorkle must have a thing for full-figured gals, as they are sometimes euphemistically called, or, as Warble calls them, economy-sized women. Being a gold digger of long standing, who had seen in Warble an up-and-coming star of the firm, and because she has to work very hard to maintain her trim figure, the receptionist is downright furious at what she perceives as a spurn. "There ain't no fat chicks manning this post, you strange, sad little man," she hisses. "I didn't want to go out with you anyway," she informs him, practically spitting in his face. Warble is taken aback. The sticker on the vending machine says, in so many words, as near as he can make it out, "Go see the fat receptionist." But there is no fat receptionist. The only receptionist in the building is far from fat. "It's a trick. I've been duped." "It's a trap!" Warble yells out. He spins around, looking to see if he's about to be tackled by whoever it is that has tricked him. He sees no one. Aha! My steel trap-like mind worked too quickly for them. They thought it would take me longer than it did to recognize the opportunity inherent in the vending machine. Due to my unparalleled intellect and observation skills, though, I discovered the key to fortunes practically instantaneously. Purchase a defective item from the machine and cash in on the untold millions greedily hoarded by the purveyors of junk food. Not willing to run the risk of returning to his office, as his pursuers could be on him at any second, Warble exits the building without returning to give his notice, leave any messages, or even to swipe any paper clips from the supply closet. Within 15 minutes of his uncovering the plot to kidnap him, doubtless to coerce out of him by tortures unimaginable the ideas locked up within his inestimable and incomparable cranium, Warble is on the subway heading towards Brooklyn Heights.